My KKDAT family, what my home seek. The grief of the imminent future plagued the streets of my dear home. Remarks of accusatory tones are thrown against the manic behavior of a child, of an adolescent, of an adult, who isn't old enough to rejoice or regret the glory days of youth that would, in some way, dictate their future. All is in constant confusion of the object of the blame. And at present I smell the stench of the rotten conscience of the youth who has already succumbed to the temptation of frequent intake of harmful substances, or badly influenced by the wrong people at the crucial stage of establishing a life direction with supposedly high hopes in the assurance of security, happiness, satisfaction, and freedom. This tragedy brought forth a series of misplaced stimulations of the senses in the societal sphere. I heard a valuable have gone missing in a neighbor's house where a sick lady resides who upon her inability to move out of bed didn't have a choice but to fearfully endure the burglary unfolding, with the thief echoing urgency and restlessness. The thief, who is no stranger to the community, walked the streets elated and unfocused the next day. I saw the kids ignite with excitement upon seeing a gun hanging on the sides of questionable people, who upon taking advantage of the consequential ignorance will urge them to fight for an anomalous cause to inflict harm on our dear home. I felt the inherent entitlement of guilt was ebbing away the more of those mentioned. Societal defiance is acted within the boundaries of my comfort space. I felt the fear of the mothers, the anger of the fathers, the danger to the siblings, and the inevitable destruction of our home. I tasted the terrors of what my age has done to my dear home, the unjust sense of accountability. Consequently, there is the rapid magnification, the perverse dependency of the present, met with the demands to pursue a destructive intensity of fulfilling desires, devouring my dear home with the stench of blood and sweat not justly spilled. Aggrieved by the events, the people accustomed to the presence of the youth involved could only drown in disappointment, for when the mother had lost the influence of her care, the father lost the respect of his authority, the sibling lost their connectivity, and the society fell as a potential aggressor, the concerned youth would turn their back on comfort, accepting a delusion of empowerment there is in rebellious acts and vices. To pursue an understanding of the severity of the contemporary problems in drugs and terrorism present in society, such sympathetic and effective picture of the subject is meaningful to everyone. Examining the picture illustrated by virtue of real events and struggles, do taint the hope of the youth to survive while staying true to their generational responsibility accompanied by individual flourishing. It is highly appreciable for youth to gain the opportune maximization of the visibility of available guidance. Family, as the core analogy of progress and well-being most significantly necessary to be present in the lives of the youth, does not immediately refer to immediate biological relations. The functions of the family and its members amidst the advent of the change in paradigms over time remains to be the basis of the body of knowledge that characterizes the aspects of societal belongingness. Belongingness is attributed to the natural inclination of people to socialize. Hence, society would regard belongingness as a top priority in the construction of societal harmony. Why must it be so? Family expands to be known as a community. Community extends the familiarity of familial correlation to the society. Society, in return, strives to branch out legal and formal sectors with organizations that safeguard the belongingness of every person to provide security for their future. Habermas et al. Asserts that the public sphere, to be viewed here as the general population of youth taking over the control of the society, is not just a collective placement of many individuals but an organized, anti-discriminatory, and ethically aware league of people. Immediate families may be more involved in the nurturing of a youth's personality and its societal abundance natural, but the genuine nurture that revolves around the degree of the youth's character stability isn't fully accounted for. Clearly, the collapse of the nurturing aid, the family as a paragon of societal construct, is the collapse of the youth. Youth is for everyone who identifies as such shoulder the expectations of the future. Youth should correct the shortcomings of the previous generation. However, on the uglier side, as we probe the assumptions of the seemingly optimistic view of the youth, there is a forced obligation to answer to the liabilities of the previous generation. There is ignorance in the fragility of the youth in carrying these burdens. Therefore, I declare, for the empowerment of the youth that we, the heroes of the future, can be weak and be entitled with doubts and disorientation. There is no shame in admitting so. What is lacking in the surrendering of the youth to the pleasures of drugs and the acceptance of terrorism is a family of special assistants, ones who will break through the intensity of the issue fairly with cautiousness and confidence. First is to ease the language of blame where blame is continuously approached with negligence of morals and reasons. The external family's views always have high tendencies to be taken as the most important factor of self-construction. For the youth, constant exposure to society is a strong evidence of the shared influence and the consequence of the youth's action and mental upbringing. To achieve this, the family of special assistants should be capable of gentle application of judgment and calculated measures. Second, it should be imposing and strong enough to rival the pressure of addiction that is mentally fraught and serve as an ideal, strong diversion. Saving the youth from his blind pleasure is a big responsibility. Strength and firm imposition is necessary for not all issues can be delicately approached. The influence of drugs and terrorism is one that cannot be combated by words alone, but it needs a healthy demanding pressure to change along with immense and rightful authority to do so. There must be constant reaching out and effect to be tangible in the victims of drugs and terrorism. Lastly, this family of special assistants must be critical about the hierarchy of their plan to address drugs and terrorism. Failure and shortcomings at times is a healthy milestone, but in dealing with this societal aggression, it should not manifest too often to avoid the lessening of faith and initiative. In line with this, the planning and application should have very little to no overlooked angle in dealing with drugs and terrorism. And the cruciality of these details in a family of special assistants is a great determinant of impeccable success of defending the comfort and trust of the youth in society. The Kabataan kontra Droga at Terorismo, although limited in some resources, is a great exercise initiative to spread the awareness of this alarming issue with an encouraging air, to act about it, deeming it to befit the qualities of a family of special assistants. As well as it may be, they should also not overlook the societal structures in which they originated and recognize the complexity a solution should have that enlists the entirety of stakeholders along with a great deal of effort to be made. The initiative must ensure a ripple of action will follow through to build a momentum that directly lessens the influence of drugs and terrorism, with the assurance of causing a substantive change in action and not just in consciousness and perception. The youth should speak without limits and fear, and so they will be tended without ignorance of the many aspects of their circumstance. Drugs and terrorism is a very complicated concern that robbed youth of their societal peace. Hence, the KK that support and the developmental tactics will undoubtedly make a difference that is truly noticeable. The family it offers to the victims of drugs and terrorism is one who is specialized in being a family of the very purpose. The quality of this family shall also ensure the kind of quality the victims and youth would have. After all, what my home seeks is what my home lacks, and what my home lacks is the strength of what was always substantially existed in its core. Bangon kabataan, syagit mga huyang o padayon mga kusgan, walay mabiyaan kay magdunggan kitang tanan.